Coming up next on KYOU News for You at 9. A man sentenced to death for the murder of an Oskaloosa pastor and wife, scheduled to be executed today.
We've enjoyed some fall-like air for periods of time during summer. Now our summer-like air is going away. We'll have a cooler 7-day forecast coming up.
Plus, a local father and son matchup Friday night at Schaefer Stadium in Ottumwa. These stories and more as KYOU News for You at 9 starts right now.
Live from Ottumwa, the news that's important to you. This is KYOU News for You at 9.
Good evening, I'm Eric Monaghan. Today, a man in Killeen, Texas is scheduled for lethal injection for the murder of an Oskaloosa pastor and his wife 20 years ago. KYOU's Jatira Marsh went to visit the church where the couple attended.
20 years ago, the pastor of this church, Todd Bagley, and his wife Stacy were murdered. Now today, one of the two men who were accused of killing the couple is scheduled to receive a lethal injection. Chris Vialva and Brandon Bernard, who are 39 and 38 now, were sentenced to death in Waco, Texas Federal District Court back in 1999 when they were only 19 and 18 years old. According to the trial testimony, the two carjacked the couple, locked them in the trunk, and took turns using the Bagley's ATM cards. The couple were both shot and then set on fire. According to the autopsy, the husband, Todd, died instantly from gunshot wounds, whereas his wife died from smoke inhalation. Now, the current pastor of this church has declined to make a statement. In Oskaloosa, Jatira Marsh, KYOU News for You.
Now let's get a look out over our Ottumwa City cam. The summer heat felt particularly brutal, but now that we're in fall, let's see if the temperatures will start to cool down. Here's your first alert forecast with meteorologist Joe Winters.
We'll watch the muggy meter over the next couple of days. Both Friday and Saturday remain in the lower to middle 60s for our dew point. So it's going to feel a little bit more humid outside, and that summer-like air is with us. But there's a transition coming our way. Front will pass through later on Saturday into Saturday night, dropping dew points in the 40s by Sunday. That starts a cool-down process that's going to last all the way through next week. That 7-day forecast is coming up. Here's a look at Pinpoint Futurecast. Again, a southerly flow of air. I think we'll see some gusts up to about 30, so maybe breezy during the afternoon hours. But Friday does remain very pleasant and very sunny, dry conditions as well. There's a look at those winds. And notice we start with some lighter winds, but they do start to pick up already in the morning. And then they do continue from that southerly direction through the day, ushering in some of that moisture we showed you, but also bringing us some very mild conditions. Our planner drops us down to 60 degrees as we start the day, 77 at noon. South winds early at 5 to 10, 10 to 20 through the day. Weekend forecast is coming up.
It'll be a family affair Friday night at Schaefer Stadium when the Ottumwa Bulldogs take on the Marshalltown Bobcats. It's a head coaching matchup featuring Brian Goodvin of Ottumwa versus his son, Adam Goodvin of Marshalltown. KYOU's James Barrickman spoke to both coaches to see how both sides are preparing for their big night.
For the second year in a row, Brian Goodvin and his Ottumwa Bulldogs will face off against his son, Adam Goodvin, and his Marshalltown Bobcats. The game wasn't on the original schedule, but after COVID-19 related changes, the rematch was set.
This year we come out, we're not on the schedule. We continue to, bounce ideas off of each other and do those types of things. And then all of a sudden, late August, they decide, hey, we're going to throw that schedule away. Here's a new schedule. Lo and behold, there's Marshalltown coming to Ottumwa again.
At first, the father-son duo wanted to avoid having each other on the schedule because last year, knowing they would eventually play each other, they didn't really talk much.
We don't talk a whole lot when we know we're going to play each other, but here recently when we got put on each other's schedules, we've stopped talking, and it'll be fun. It's special, but once the opening kickoff starts, it's just like any other game.
Both Brian and Adam played football for Ottumwa in their high school days, but for Adam, it's the second time he'll be returning to his alma mater as an opposing head coach.
It'll be fun to go back to Schaefer Stadium. Have a lot of my own personal memories there, and obviously it looks a lot different than the last time, when I played there, but it'll be fun to to experience another football game there, and obviously I'm very familiar with a lot of the coaches there, and it'll be a fun night.
And while they'll be enemies on Friday night, they'll have the memory of these games to hang on to forever.
He's done a great job at Marshalltown. He's got, he'll have them prepared, I know that. and proud of him for leading them in the way that he's done. He's been a great role model for them.
The both of us might look back on it later on down the road and see how special it is and be able to talk about that and share memories. So, but this week we've got to treat it like any other game.
Last year, the Bulldogs fell 26-14. Brian Goodvin says his team will need to play a full 4 quarters as they look to even the series. I'm James Barrickman. KYOU News for You.
Let's take a look at today's coronavirus numbers for the state. The Iowa Department of Public Health reports 1,341 new cases, bringing the state's total up to 83,590. There are just under 11,000 active cases in the state. We sit at a positivity rate of 15.9%, and there have been 6 new deaths as well. And a recent poll shows that more Iowans disapprove of how Governor Kim Reynolds has addressed the pandemic here in the state. A Des Moines Register and Mediacom Iowa poll shows 47% of Iowans disapprove against a 44% approval. That's a 15% drop in approval since June. The governor has consistently rebuffed any calls for a statewide mask mandate and has lifted several coronavirus-related restrictions, as well as requiring school districts to have 50% of students in person in school, unless their positivity rate reaches 15%. The poll was split fairly evenly between parties. Republicans largely approved, and Democrats mostly disapproved. And in terms of general favorability, 46% of Iowans have good feelings towards the governor, with 42% opposing that as well. And that finding is mostly split between party lines. And if you're looking for something to do with the family this weekend, Bloomfield's 5th annual Giant Pumpkin Bash is being held this Saturday, and it's open to the public. KYOU's Shelby Slaughter caught up with the Davis County Sheriff about the upcoming event.
On Saturday, growers across several states will join together for the Giant Pumpkin Bash in Bloomfield. Located right on the historic Bloomfield Courthouse Square, Davis County Sheriff Dave Davis says it's an event he looks forward to every year.
There'll be several pumpkins over 800 pounds, but we're definitely going to have them up over 1,000 pounds. And actually, 2 years ago, our site record here, the biggest pumpkin that was ever brought here was 2,283 pounds.
But pumpkins are just the main event. Growers will also be judged on giant watermelons, gourds, tomatoes, field pumpkins, and more. And if you're sad about missing out on this year's growing fun, well, Davis says getting involved in growing is easy.
In the late fall, I will email growers all over the world. I'll ask if they would be willing to donate some seeds to a seed auction that our grower group does on the web. That is a big fundraiser for us. We usually generate up a little under $4,000 off of selling seeds in 3 hours.
The event will be held on Saturday beginning at 9 a.m. Spectators are asked to please wear a mask and social distance. In Bloomfield, Shelby Slaughter, KYOU News for You.
Coming up, outrage in Louisville after the grand jury's verdict in the Breonna Taylor case. And meteorologist Joe Winters has a look at your first alert forecast coming up. You're watching KYOU News for You at 9.
You're watching KYOU News for You at 9. And now, First Alert Weather.
Still looks like a summertime feel on Pinpoint Futurecast, our temperature map across the upper Midwest. For now, it pushes temperatures in the 50s to the north, 60s, 70s back across areas, the Rockies and Plains. So I would say slightly above where we would expect to be for this time of the year. Moisture, it's beginning to increase as well. Our dew points now getting close to 60 degrees. I think some lower to maybe mid 60 degree dew points will be with us as we head through the coming days. And that on Saturday, with a cold front moving in into Sunday, could provide a chance of a shower or storm, but that's also going to provide a chance for some much cooler weather to move in. That's a guarantee next week. It's not this front that will bring the very, very chilly air. It's off toward the north, but it'll start the process because ahead of it, we have a strong southerly flow of air. That's where we are right now. That's where we'll be all the way through the early part of our Saturday. Late Saturday into Sunday, that front moves through, and then behind it, the northerly breezes start to move in, reinforced as we head into next week as temperatures drop below normal. Here's a look at Pinpoint Futurecast. We're just going to start at 11 o'clock and just kind of roll it it forward through our Friday, you're not going to notice much in the way of weather activity at all. We stay with a south or southwesterly wind, a bit stronger during the afternoon, maybe upwards of 20 or 25. As we head into Friday evening, Saturday morning, we're quiet. That southwest wind is with us. Actually, a little stronger on Saturday the closer that front gets, and that combined with some moisture again could provide a few showers and storms. Forecast for tonight, overnight partly cloudy, 58 degrees, a light south wind at 5 to 10. The southerly wind picks up tomorrow, helps our temperature out a bit. With sunshine, we'll be in the lower 80s, about 83 degrees, south winds at 10 to 20, and I would not be surprised to see a wind gust up to about 30 at times. Notice our muggy meter as we head into Friday starts off in the upper 50s. Guess what? As we head into the afternoon, those low 60-degree dew points are with us, and it will feel a bit humid outside. We're expecting that humidity to remain then in place as we work our way into Saturday as well. Forecast wind ranges really tell us the weather story over the course of the next 5 days. We look at the direction first. Southerly, straight northwesterly. Then we look at the speed. Saturday we're at 15 to 25. That's ahead of a cold front that moves through. That cold front pushes through. Some showers and storms possible. You'll see that on the 7-day coming up. Then the northwest flow builds in. And look at how it builds as we head through the week. By Tuesday, some pretty strong northwest winds with us. That just ushers down some cold Canadian air. And that air is then going to be with us as we head through the week. A real fall-like air mass moving our way. In fact, there it comes Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, reinforcing itself as we head toward the mid part of the week. Chilly air will be in place as high temperatures will fall. How far will those highs fall? Let's take a look at our 7-day forecast. Now again, Friday, Saturday are good. Saturday, based on the position of the front right now, will be our warmest day with 87. But then that front moves through Saturday night, Sunday, a shower chance, 67 degrees for a high. Heading into next week, here's where you see some of that cooler weather arriving. We're looking at temperatures falling down into the 60s for highs for much of next week. In fact, as you notice, we move farther down the line. You are going to see temperatures in the 50s for highs and overnight lows that will be dipping well down into the 40s. So very chilly air headed in as we move into next week. Be prepared for that. It certainly will be a fall-like feel. That's a complete look at our 7-day first alert forecast. Eric, back to you.
Demonstrations took to the streets around the country in reaction to the State Attorney General's announcement in the Breonna Taylor case. The long-awaited charges against former officer Brett Hankinson were immediately criticized by activists who had demanded more serious counts. And indictments against all 3 officers involved in the shooting that led to Taylor's deaths. Nadia Romero was in Louisville, where tensions boiled over last night.
Heartbreak and outrage boiling over into protests following the announcement that none of the officers involved in the operation that led to Breonna Taylor's death were charged directly with killing her. And only one officer faces any charges for his actions during the botched raid on March 13th. The other 2 officers under investigation were not indicted. Attorney Ben Crump says this decision is an insult to her family and to the community.
We stand here today to say that there is no justification for the murder of Breonna Taylor. And we will go to our graves proclaiming that Breonna Taylor did not get justice from the Kentucky Attorney General's office.
That frustration spilling out into the streets of Louisville, as peaceful demonstrations were interrupted by confusion.
Right there, officer down, right there. Right here down this alley.
2 officers shot near one of the marches just before curfew began.
Both officers are currently undergoing treatment. We do have 1 suspect in custody.
Kentucky's governor calling for an end to the violence, urging people to go home.
There will be many times over the coming days where there will be an opportunity to be heard, and so many people are listening right now.
The anger in Louisville felt throughout the country as demonstrators took to the streets from coast to coast. But attorneys for Taylor's family say those demanding change need to use their voices where it matters most, the ballot box.
Continue to protest, but we got to turn that protest into power and change the laws.
In Louisville, I'm Nadia Romero.
And a pharmaceutical company in China has come up with a coronavirus vaccine that's expected to be ready for worldwide distribution early next year. Today, the CEO of Sinovac Biotech, Yin Weidong, said the company would apply to the FDA to sell the vaccine, called CoronaVac, in the United States if it passes its 3rd round of human testing. CoronaVac is one of China's top 4 leading vaccine candidates. More than 24,000 people are currently taking the vaccines in clinical trials in Brazil, Turkey, and Indonesia. Additional trials are scheduled for Bangladesh and possibly Chile. Stringent regulations in the U.S., European Union, Japan, and Australia have usually blocked the sale of Chinese vaccines. Yin says he's expected that to change. Of course, this comes after President Trump remarked that the White House may or may not approve the proposed tougher FDA guidelines for authorizing emergency use of any coronavirus vaccines. Whether or not CoronaVac would fit under these guidelines, however, is still unknown. And traditional Halloween celebrations will not be the same this year. In an effort to mitigate the spread of COVID-19, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention has set guidelines, urging Americans to skip trick-or-treating. Fox's Danielle Lama has the details.
Halloween turning out to be quite the mystery this year.
It is a little bit nerve-wracking. You still don't know. You're still very unsure on what to do.
The holiday just over a month away, and a lot of parents don't know how they're going to celebrate.
I have a feeling that most hosts for Halloween will be masked. I'd like gloves.
To take away some of the suspense, the Centers for Disease Control is rolling out their do's and don'ts. On the higher risk list, traditional trick-or-treating and trunk-or-treating. Trick-or-treating with to-go bags that are left out is considered moderately risky.
Kids cluster at a door, or they are too close to the people who are answering the door, then that is cause for concern.
Crowded costume parties, haunted houses, and hay rides with people who aren't in your family are also on the high-risk list. And the experts say you can't swap a monster mask for your cloth one. It won't protect you. Mom of two, Jessica Bradu, says she's leaning toward keeping the festivities small.
We're trying to see if maybe we do just something with family, as long as the kids just feel a little bit of the holiday, and that's about it, but definitely they're gonna dress up.
Some parents hoping scaling back Halloween this year will mean we're back in business for next year.
Smaller scale, you know, I hate to do it, but we're still under a pandemic, and I'd rather get this over with quicker.
And the late Ruth Bader Ginsburg's casket lay at the Supreme Court for a second day, with more visitors coming to pay respects, including President Trump. He was greeted with boos from protesters when he visited earlier today. Trump had insulted Ginsburg and called on her to resign, and she had once called him a, quote, faker. Trump says he will announce his nominee to replace Ginsburg Saturday. The public also had a chance to pay respects, lining up below the stairs leading into the court building. Ginsburg's will lie in the state in the U.S. Capitol Friday, the first woman in history to do so. And we now have more details on a continuation of agricultural relief funding. David Geiger has more next on the Agribusiness Report.
Welcome, I'm David Geiger. A continuing resolution was passed in the House of Representatives this week to keep funding for agriculture going. The new deal adds nearly $8 billion in nutrition assistance for school children and families, as well as adding accountability for the Commodity Credit Corporation, which has been heading the funding for ag relief programs during the pandemic. Farm groups joined together to advocate for the funding that continues through December 11th. The groups, including the American Farm Bureau Federation and National Farmers Union, now applaud the overwhelming vote to fund the government. Senate Agriculture Committee Chairman Pat Roberts says the bipartisan decision means they are choosing not to ignore rural America. He gives credit to the 47 ag groups that joined together to push for it.
47 different farm organizations and commodity groups. They speak for, I think, virtually every farmer, rancher, and grower in the country. So thanks to the 47.
A new bill introduced in the Senate this week hopes to restore transparency to the cattle markets. With meat packing plant fires and supply chain challenges, Senator Deb Fischer, a Nebraska Republican, introduced the bill to establish regional mandatory minimum thresholds of negotiated cash trades, which would allow for price discovery in cattle marketing regions. It also requires the Secretary of Agriculture to establish regionally sufficient levels of negotiated cash trade, seek public comment on those levels, and then implement. It would require the USDA also to create and maintain a library of marketing contracts between packers and producers, mandating they supply information, a requirement which already exists for the swine industry. And that's all I have for the Agribusiness Report today. Thanks for joining me. I'll see you again next time.
Coming up next, we've got the unemployment and housing numbers, along with a bit of airline news with Fox Means Business.
Live from Ottumwa, you're watching News for You at 9. Available anytime on KYOUTV.com.
Welcome back. One major airline is preparing to clear you for takeoff. The brakes are getting pumped on the labor market as it tries to come back. Fox Business correspondent Connell McShane has these stories and more in tonight's Fox Means Business Report.
Jobless claims ticking up as the labor market recovery slows down. Another 870,000 applied for first-time unemployment benefits last week. And when you add it all up, nearly 62 million have now filed for assistance since the pandemic hit in March. Meantime, the housing market is looking more hopeful. New home sales surged 4.8% in August, according to the Commerce Department. Low mortgage rates pushing the monthly total to its highest level in 14 years. But mortgage rates are now starting to go up. Freddie Mac said the average 30-year fixed-rate mortgage increased slightly to 2.9%. Now, that is still an historically low level. And testing for takeoff. Beginning on October the 15th, United Airlines passengers from San Francisco to Hawaii will have the option to order an at-home COVID-19 test kit or take a rapid test at the airport prior to boarding. The company said it hopes to expand COVID-19 testing to travel hubs across the country. And that's business. I'm Connell McShane.
And that's all for tonight. Thank you for joining us for KYOU News for You at 9. We'll see you right back here tomorrow. Until then, for news and the latest First Alert forecast 24 hours a day, like our Facebook page and visit our website, KYOUTV.com. Have a great night.